All right, Exodus 34, let's call this one Take Care. Why? Because ordinarily, I'll use that as a goodbye, simply wishing a person well as we part. But it, of course, carries that other sense of take care, as in beware. And that is the sense in which we are going to see it in chapter 34, beginning around verse 11, where it reads, "Observe what I command you this day. Behold, I will drive out before you the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Take care lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land to which you go, lest it become a snare in your midst. You shall tear down their altars and break their pillars and cut down their asherim. For you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and when they," strong language, "whore after their gods and sacrifice to their gods, you are invited. You eat of his sacrifice, and you take of their daughters for your sons. And their daughters whore after their gods, and make your sons whore after their gods." Understand, he is warning us about something that you don't even have to go to church very often to understand, because it is almost a cliche now, the saying, bad company corrupts good morals. And he is helping us to understand that not every invitation is an invitation that we need to accept, understanding that there are many a bad relationship that started off in euphoria. We talk about the honeymoon period applying to more than just marriage, and he is helping us to understand how there may be a honeymoon period with the people of the land, but you have to understand that beneath the surface and beneath the courtesies, you got to understand whether or not you genuinely share a value structure with the people with whom you will partner. And ultimately, he is warning them that this could lead to marriages that seem so sweet on the front end, but lead to some very devastating consequences. And that is a lesson for us, not only in marriage, but in relationship in general. Understand the warning that God is giving here and the way it speaks to us even still today, but likewise understand the contrast he is going to show with, once again, Moses, as Moses is going to be somebody who might scare him at a certain point, but ultimately he's going to say you need to draw near to Moses no matter what he looks like. Beginning in verse 29 of that same chapter 34, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand as he came down from the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because he had been talking with God. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. Ultimately understand that, once again, we said Moses had a special relationship with God because he was interested in God for more than just the stuff that God could give him. And so as he drew closer and closer to God, we also noticed that it cost him, because he had to spend 2 40-day stints eating nothing, essentially fasting alone with God. Understanding, once again, how sometimes we can understand the privilege of a situation without understanding the cost that goes along with it. Moses now didn't realize that, having been in God's presence, he was now different in a way that was scaring the people around him. And so understand this. Sometimes we have to get over our initial fear of a situation, because there is actually a blessing from God in certain relationships that might not seem to start out that well, but we have to pray to God to give us the insight to see deeper. We quote James all the time, saying, if any of us lacks wisdom, which we do, ask of God, but ask without doubting. And sometimes that is in character assessments as well. Why is that? Because this story is going to continue. Verse 31. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. Understand this. There are times when God is going to need you to be different from the people around you, as lonely and as isolating as that can be. See, because he is reaching out to each of us, sometimes using us as the tool for change. But if all we ever do is want to fit in, what kind of contrast are we actually providing to the people around us? See, sometimes loving people is standing apart from them in a time when they are committed to doing the wrong thing, not because they are headed down a path that's going to lead to death, but because God has planned for them a turn. And the only way that they really are going to get that turn is if somebody has the courage to be different and show them a different way. Sometimes that's lonely, but sometimes that's the best way to really love the people you want to be with.